It is day 3 of the 1.4.5 update, and I am just getting started. In today's video, we are going to be looking at the new features available to builders in the update: tree growth, nature decor, quality of life features, monoliths, liquid stuff, paint stuff, and particles. A big video is ahead today, so let's get started. Greetings friends, Khaios here. The Bigger and Boulder update has brought a lot of subtle changes to the game that bring a lot of quality of life features, and quite a few of them are pretty handy for building. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at some of my favorite changes and additions to the game. Quickly, I wanted to thank you all for the very kind words on my previous 2 videos. It has been so wholesome to interact with you all again. If you would like to continue supporting the channel, be sure to tell the YouTube AI overlord that I'm doing a good job by leaving a like and a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future content. And if you'd like to help support the channel in a more direct way, please consider becoming a channel member or supporting me over on Patreon for various rewards. With all of that plugging out of the way, let's dive into the heart of the video. Trees are a key component to Terraria, to the point that there's even one in the logo. But did you know that there has been a slight change to how they grow in this update? As most of you know, trees will not grow in front of walls. They can only grow in front of fences or when there are no walls present at all. If you wanted trees inside of your builds, you had to grow the tree first, then place walls behind it. But in this update, fertilizer has received a buff. When you hit a sapling with fertilizer, it can now grow in front of walls. This works with every tree type except for glowing mushroom, as you can't use fertilizer on the mushrooms at all. That's not all, as there is also a new type of fertilizer. If you're looking to get the most out of your trees, or if you just want to decorate with extremely tall trees, you can now toss fertilizer into the shimmer and get infused fertilizer. This works exactly like the normal fertilizer, except instead of growing a tree at a random height, it will grow tall trees every time. This, however, makes me wish for a couple of other things. It would be amazing if we had a fertilizer that only grew short trees, because sometimes you just want that for decoration. But also, I wish we could grow gem trees on the surface. I know why they can't grow normally, but since you can use fertilizer on gem corns when they're below the ground, I think it would be wonderful if we could get them to grow on the surface, if only when using fertilizer. While on the topic of nature decorations, a couple of videos ago I talked about 2 new items that allowed us to place stalactites, stalagmites, and pots. Those were the Tidy Mighty and the Portable Kiln. They function very much like the Rebel Maker, but what I didn't mention is that the Rebel Maker itself has a few new additions. As of 1.4.5, we can now place brand new desert decoration when using sand. These little piles of desert rocks are pretty nice, but that's not all. We are also now able to place the oasis plants and cacti with the Rebel Maker when using some cactus block. Grab yourself some corruption, crimson, and hallowed grass seeds, and now we could also place the oasis plants of all the other variants as well. Finally, the Rebel Maker can place one other new item. These fallen logs are occasionally found scattered around the world. They usually spawn fairies that you can catch. Now, we can place a decorative version of these fairy logs with pixie dust and the Rebel Maker. Unfortunately, these will not spawn fairies, so you'll still not want to go around your world breaking the natural logs. But at least we now have a decorative option. With the Rebel Maker, you all know that we can press up and down to cycle through the designs. Well, that feature has been brought over to some other items for a big quality of life change. There are a ton of items in Terraria that have multiple different designs: sandcastles, crystals, starfish, shells, gnomes, and so much more. In the past, we had to move our mouse cursor around to get the item to shuffle randomly through different designs in an attempt to get the ones that we wanted. It could be very annoying, especially if you were looking for specific styles and you happen to move your mouse after getting the one you wanted. This update fixes that problem by bringing the up and down cycle from the Rebel Maker to every item that has numerous designs. Now we can place all of our decorative furniture pieces without making it look like we're violently shaking them. Another great quality of life feature comes in the form of visual indicators. For example, when you're placing stairs with the smart cursor turned on, it will allow you to either place flat platforms by going left-right or top and down, or it will let you place stairs when going at a diagonal. But sometimes it can be hard to tell exactly which you're going to get if your mouse wasn't exactly at a 45-degree angle. Now, when the smart cursor turns on, a little arrow appears that will indicate which direction the stairs are going to place. This doesn't currently work with minecart tracks, but I could see that coming in a future update, as it feels like a little bit of an oversight. But that's not the only visual indicator that we have. When you access a pylon, it opens up the map, and it automatically draws lines from the pylon that you're at to every other pylon that it can teleport you to. Another really useful visual indicator comes from the new housing menu. When you try to see if a house is valid, it will show you several things within the house. It will have dots in all of the spaces that count as inside of the room, and it will have icons for lights, tables, and doors. If the room is too big or small, little markers will flash. If a requirement is not met, it will flash an indicator on where you can place it. This can also be handy if you're trying to check out unconventional houses that somebody else made and you're not exactly sure how it works. For example, I have this tiny cage house and this open room raft. They're both valid houses thanks to echo coding, but that might not be apparent. The housing tool will help point out exactly how they're valid. On the topic of quality of life changes, there's a massive one in this update. I love to build themed houses for my NPCs, but sometimes it feels like we don't know when we have an NPC waiting for a house, or which NPC will be coming in a playthrough, so even I will occasionally build NPC box hotels just to make sure that I always have valid temporary houses for NPCs to move into until I can get them proper homes. That is, until now. In 1.4.5, NPCs will now show up in your world, much like the traveling merchant, and they're in search of a new home as long as you meet the requirements for them to move in. If you have a valid house available, they'll move into it. If you don't, they'll depart at night just like the traveling merchant. But you can use them while they're around, and you will always know if an NPC is ready to move in because they'll just show up at your front door and let you know. So for me, I think temporary NPC hotels are officially a thing of the past. Bombs away. As builders, we love decorating in Terraria. One go-to decorative item in the game has always been the Mannequin or the Mannequin. They have always been a great way of showcasing your favorite armors and vanity pieces. But now, they are incredibly amazing. You can take your hammer to a mannequin, and with every swing, it will now change poses. You can make a mannequin sit, go into a jump pose, a walk pose, but there's even more. You can now equip weapons to them and use the hammer to make them go through a weapon swinging pose. Not every weapon will be visible on the mannequin, particularly if that weapon doesn't have a swing animation, for example the Zenith, but most weapons will be usable. But even that isn't all that mannequins are capable of. You can now equip mounts to them. When a mannequin is riding a mount, you can hammer it to cycle through various poses of that mount. Now, the only thing that I wish we could do is in some way turn the actual mannequin's body invisible. That way we could just have mount stands. But decorations aren't the only way to add ambience to your builds. A huge impact comes in the form of monoliths. Originally, there were 7 monoliths, but with this update, there are 4 more. The radio thing was something that was added in the Don't Starve Together crossover, but we could only equip it at the time. Now, we can place it and activate it to get a great sepia look. This giant Game Boy looking device is the Retro Monolith. You can purchase it from the Cyborg, and when you activate it, it makes Terraria feel like a retro handheld game. Up next is the CRT monolith, which is also purchased by the Cyborg. For you younger folks, this probably doesn't mean much, but for older people like me, this is a great flash to the past. Activating the monolith bends the resolution corners and adds horizontal pixel lines that make the game emulate an old CRT television. The final monolith makes things feel even older. This is the film projector, and it makes everything black and white, gives a grainy appearance, and even scratch marks as if we're playing Terraria on an old film projector. And how do you get it? That is a big spoiler for another day. That's all of the new monoliths. However, there is more to talk about with them. I want to keep this video concise, so I'll save that topic for another day. For now, let's move on to another ambient change. Glowing mushrooms produce light. For years, we've been able to paint the mushroom grass, vines, and trees to get them to change the color of the light that they produce, but not the furniture set. Until this update. Mushroom furniture will now produce a different light color depending on what color it is painted. Another interesting point is that most of the lights have more than one tile to them, so if you paint each tile a different color, you can mix and match to get an even wider range of light colors. If you want this feature, but you don't want to see the mushroom lights themselves, simply echo coat them. And on the topic of echo coating, let's take a look at another new feature to the game. Bubbles have always been able to stop liquids. Now, however, we can actually place a liquid into the bubble directly. Now here's where things get really interesting. If you then echo coat a bubble, it will turn itself and the liquid inside invisible. Lava and shimmer will still produce light, the lava will still hurt you, the honey will still heal you, the shimmer will still shimmer, it's just invisible. There's something really janky with that, but that's another video for another day. Ever since the addition of echo coating, something I've been obsessed with is finding new particles to add to my builds to make them more ambient. For example, poo blocks and their flies, or this invisible chimney that's hidden under this crashed UFO. I love particles. The more, the better. And this update adds quite a few more. I say that, but I'm not sure if this next part is actually going to count as a particle or not. Either way, I'm including it in this segment. One of my favorite additions in the update is the ability to place critters. If you can catch it with a bug net, you can place it. Birds, bugs, bunnies, fish, even the truffle worm, literally all of them. This is massive. It allows us to add so much more life to our builds. You can place a critter on any side of a block or on a background wall, giving you diverse options in how you place them. You can even echo coat the item to hide it away while keeping the critter. There are a few things to keep in mind, however. Firstly, if you put a water creature out of the water, they will have a bubble form around them and they'll float in the air. Likewise, if you put a non-water creature in the water, it will get the same bubble. Another important thing to keep in mind is that these critters do not have the same AIs that the normal critters do. For example, they won't run away from you, and snails don't climb up the sides of blocks, birds won't land on the floor, stuff like that. Lastly, there is a range on these. If a critter moves out of the range of the item, it will teleport back, which you could potentially do on purpose as it creates an interesting particle effect. Just be careful when you place your critters. You will put them down by right-clicking. If you left-click, you're just going to release the critter to the wild and you'll have to catch it again. Now, this really makes me want more critters in the future to add to my builds. Also, can you imagine how awesome it would be if we could place equipable pets or even weapon summons in this fashion? Just let that idea soak if you're watching Relogic. In the previous video, I mentioned Star Cloud and Lava Cloud. Star Cloud shoots stars out of the top of it during nighttime, and Lava Cloud rains lava out of the bottom of it. Both of these continue to create those particles even if they're echo-coated. There's also a massive list of blocks that produce falling dust particles in this update. Nearly every block that you find naturally generated underground will now passively drop particles on occasion. Dirt, stone, clay, mud, ice, snow, hardened sand, sandstone, the evil variants of them, marble, granite, obsidian, and ash all drop particles now. There may even be more that I haven't found yet, so I'm going to keep testing. Even better, all of these particles will still be produced if you echo coat the block. This allows us to have so much more fine detail to our builds. There are a few other things that produce particles, but sadly they don't make them when they're echo coated, and those items would be the Crimson and Corruption Altars, the Shadow Orbs, and Crimson Hearts. They've always been able to produce the particles, but the reason I'm mentioning them in this video is because they've had a sprite rework, and they look phenomenal. But furthermore, we can place decorative versions of them. You can make replica altars at the Heavy Assembler in a graveyard biome using 15 Ebonstone, 3 Demonite bars, and 3 Shadow Scales, or the Crimson equivalent. To get replica Shadow Orbs or Crimson Hearts, take 5 Demonite bars and 5 Shadow Scales, or the Crimson alternative, to a Demon Altar or Crimson Altar. Now, these are purely decorative. Breaking the orbs won't spawn the Eater of Worlds, and you can't craft or get hard mode ores from the altars. We can't get placeable Shadow Orbs or Crimson Hearts, but there is a way to get a placeable real Demon Altar, but I'm going to save that for my next video. For now, if you've been enjoying these videos, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you want to help support the channel more directly, you can leave a thanks, or don't forget you can become a member or a Patreon supporter. A special thanks to my biggest supporter for the month, Khaios. And be sure to check out my channel artist, MythicalWater, linked in the description below. Thank you all very much for watching. Be back soon with a new video. Happy building!